Welcome everyone to Next Generation at CBRE. We'll quickly go around the room and get everyone to just introduce themselves. So I am Hannah 12trees. I am the Next Generation partner at CBRE. So I'm responsible for all of the hiring and recruiting for our graduates, apprentices, interns and placements. Natalia, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Natalia Boothby and I'm a graduate project manager in my second year.
Yashni?
Hi, I'm Yashni Beaker. I'm a apprentice HR advisor and I'm still new to the business, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
And finally, Jamie.
Afternoon, everyone. My name's Jamie Mayer. I'm a second year graduate building surveyor and currently sit in the project management and building consultancy team in the Glasgow office.
Fantastic. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, everyone, for joining today. We basically just wanted to kind of give you a bit of an overview about what CBRE is, what we do, and also the opportunities that we've got available. Here's just also a really good opportunity for you to be able to ask any questions that you might have about kind of CBRE in general or real estate in general, but also about the next generation schemes that we run. We will have the chat function open throughout the chat, so feel free to kind of drop in any questions at any point, but also we will be doing a Q&A at the end as well, so if you do have any questions and you kind of want to save it till then that's also fine. We'll get going with our presentation. Cool, so if we go on to the next slide. Brill. So first of all, I just wanted to start off with a bit of a video just to kind of give you a bit more of insight about kind of CBRE, what we do and some of the projects that we work on.
More than steel and glass, more than square footage and four walls, more than facilities and floor plans. Today, more than ever, we see more. We see dimensions others can't, from perspectives others don't. More productivity, flexibility, and employee well-being. Opportunity to invest in the future. Potential in every business, in every space, in every person. Insights that transform. Because the more perspectives we have, the more dimensions we see.
Fantastic. So just to kind of break that down and kind of give you a bit more of insight of kind of what that all means. So CBRE is the global market leader. We are the world's largest real estate and investment services firm. So we're based across all of the world. We're based in over 100 countries. We've got over 500 offices, over 100,000 employees, and we're a Fortune 500 company as well. So we are absolutely enormous. But what I think is really important about CBRE, and kind of one of my concerns when I first started, was, am I just going to be a number within kind of or like just a tiny cog within a huge machine that's not really going to be recognized? But the wonderful thing about CBRE is we're broken out into so obviously we've got all of our different countries that kind of run independently but alongside of each other, but then we also have different service lines within those countries and different offices within those as well. So those service lines are kind of different areas that people specialize in. So for example, myself and Yashni are both part of the people service line, whereas Jamie and Talia are both part of the project management and building consultancy service line, but we've got lots of different service lines within CBRE. And so within those kind of pathways and streams and service lines, you get to know kind of everyone really well, and those service lines also still kind of collaborate together as well, so you still get to kind of meet other people, and we have lots of different ways as well of networking to make sure that you kind of get to know everyone, and everyone's people probably say this a lot, but I've never come across someone who doesn't want to help. And I think the other three could probably also echo that, and they'll kind of tell you a bit more about that later as well. So to give you a bit of a kind of extent of the kind of clients that we work with. So as you can see, we've got some of the biggest names in the world on there. I would say that kind of most is quite a sweeping statement, but it's actually quite true that most of the kind of large properties or kind of well-known real estate or land kind of areas across the UK and across the world, really, CBRE has probably had some kind of touch point with those at some point. So kind of think of the big ones, and you'll probably find that somewhere along their life cycle, CBRE has had some kind of touch point, whether or not that's a small or large touch point. So what do? We kind of, real estate, to kind of break it down into real layman's terms, it's literally every kind of piece of property or land that you see around you is referred to as kind of real estate or property, or that kind of falls into that sector. And due to the huge nature of CBRE, we have touch points in every part of the kind of real estate life cycle. So as you can see here, whether or not that's land acquisition or planning and designing or construction, occupation and use, including refurbishment and demolition, we have some kind of team that looks after those different areas. So it might be the property management team that kind of look after the occupation and use side of things, or our development team or planning team kind of take over the land acquisition and the planning and designing side of things. So we are literally that there's a home for everyone. It doesn't matter kind of what area of property or real estate you're interested in. We have something that will suit everyone. And also alongside of that, obviously, we are a huge firm that requires a lot of cogs to be able to make everything kind of work. So we also have our HR teams, our business services teams, our marketing, and all of those types of things that are also kind of part of CBRE. So if you're still kind of not 100% sure on what you want to do, but you like the company, then it's definitely worth having a chat with us and seeing kind of what home would be best for you within the company. So as I mentioned earlier, with kind of networking and getting to know people across the company and across the kind of brand, alongside the service lines, we also have what we refer to as our networks, which promote inclusivity at CBRE, but also it's a great way of being able to do what they say on the tin, kind of network with people around you. And people who have similar kind of mindsets. So anyone can join any of these networks, and we've got others as well. These are kind of our main six. But anyone can join any of the networks at any time. So even if you don't necessarily directly identify with something that's kind of within that network, you can also kind of sign up as an ally to that network. And what they do is they kind of is a great way of kind of sharing thoughts, but also kind of getting things done in the office and in the industry and in the kind of market. So the Women's Network, for example, we made sure that when we had our Henrietta House office refurbished, and when we opened that late last year, we made sure that there's free sanitary products for all of the females in all of the female bathrooms across our offices. And that was put in by the Women's Network, and it was something that was really important for them, and they kind of flew the flag for that, I suppose. And so alongside kind of getting things done, we also do great social events. So we're like the Proud Network are doing a pumpkin carving later this month, which will be great. So there's always lots of things going on, and they kind of have individual sports teams and things. So there is kind of a great social side of it as well. So the different routes into CBRE, obviously this is kind of mainly probably aimed at most of our participants today are probably looking into the graduate route, but also we've got kind of our different areas and different ways into CBRE at the Next Generation scheme. So we've got kind of going straight from university, they would probably best go into the graduate scheme. We've got kind of mid-university, which would be best to do the sandwich or industry placements. Then we've got kind of school, college or uni students that could explore our summer internships. And then we've also got, apprenticeships, and then we've got just the general interest in CBRE that can join onto our summer internships. So our graduate and placement schemes, they open in September. So they opened on the 1st of September, and they'll actually be closing on the 14th of October. So I recommend getting your applications in as soon as possible. And they'll be starting in the following September, so September 2023. And then what our apprenticeship schemes will be launching in December for a start date in the following September. So again, they'll be starting alongside the graduates in 2023. And then our internships, the applications for those will open in January. And that will be a 4-week internship in either July or August. And that kind of is decided by yourselves and the business as well. So the different graduate pathways that we've got, as you can see, we've got quite a lot of different ones. So like I say, there is a home for everyone. And some of these are where it says cognates or non-cognate. So a cognate, just for anyone who doesn't know, is that means they basically need to have a relevant degree for the pathway that they're studying. So for example, our building surveying pathway, you would need to have studied a building surveying degree to go onto that pathway. But then if you look at like the commercial real estate pathway, we take people from a cognate or non-cognate background. So you might have studied, I don't know, like English at university, but we still kind of allow people onto that program. I mean, where we're open to non-cognates, the most important thing for us is we're not looking for, and I mean, even across all of the pathways, really, we're not looking for an end result of people who have got the most kind of intelligent people or people who kind of know property or real estate or that sector inside and out, because we can teach you that stuff. That's why you're on the graduate scheme. Otherwise you'd be coming in as an experienced hire. Instead, what we're wanting is someone who's just really passionate, really hardworking and really enthusiastic to be able to kind of bring that attitude to work and really get stuck in and kind of ready to learn and kind of work on the projects. So all of our pathways, all of our graduate schemes are 2 years long. So like I say, the adverts opened on the 1st of September and they'll be closing on the 14th of October. And then this year, our assessment centres, which I'll come on to a bit later, will be held in November and December. So the benefits of, it's probably worth mentioning as well, if you do want any more information on the apprenticeships, then feel free to reach out to me afterwards or kind of get in touch with me on LinkedIn or whatever, and we can give you more information on that, or you can check out our website too. But the benefits of working at CBRE, so these are kind of the others will touch on kind of more of the benefits in a bit, but just to kind of give you a bit of an overview of the standard benefits, I suppose, that you get. So obviously you've got the paid company benefits, such as pension, private medical insurance, dental plans, all of those types of things. You're also jumping straight into the workforce. So you're working with a company that has got a huge amount of experience, a huge amount of knowledge, and also a huge amount of passion for what they do. You'll be working alongside people who might have worked at the company for 20, 30, 40 years. And that's not knowledge that you can be taught kind of anywhere else, really. You'll be learning from the best of the best. We also have a dedicated learning and development team as well. So once you start with CBRE, I will pass you over to our training and learning and development team and one of our kind of next generation partners on site. So they'll be making sure that you get regular kind of touch points throughout your graduate scheme, making sure that you're getting all the mentoring and support that you need to be able to do, if you're a non-cognate and you're doing kind of a degree alongside the course, and they'll make sure that you have all of the support for that. Then also they'll be making sure that if it's, for example, you're sitting your APC to become the chartered surveyor that you're wanting to become afterwards, and they'll make sure you have all of the support with that part of it as well. We have an incredibly high pass rate for the APC, which is the qualification that you need to become a chartered surveyor within the real estate industry. It's accredited by RICS. We have people who have previously sat it or recently sat it, but we also have moderators and testers within our company, so we can make sure that you have all of the support, all of the knowledge, all of the exposure to different areas that you can for that. We also have excellent career progression. So after your rotations, you will then be obviously kind of supported and making sure that you are directed in the way that you want to go with your career. And we also have a structured promotion process in place, so we can make sure that you're kind of getting up and developing and progressing in your career in the way that you want to. As I said, with the APC, you'll gain accreditations relevant to the pathway that you're studying. We're also a national living wage employer, which is so that's higher than the minimum wage. That's in line with the national living wage that's been set by the government, and so we're paying above that, and it's a competitive salary along with our kind of other competitors in the market. You'll also have yearly salary reviews, so that will increase year on year that you stay with us. And you'll sit when you start in September, although you might be starting on the planning pathway, for example, you'll start alongside everyone else as well, and you'll sit within that wider next generation cohort. So if you're coming in as a graduate, you'll also be starting alongside the apprentices, so everyone gets to know each other. This year we had our highest next generation our largest next generation cohort that we've ever had. It was about 110 people, I think it was. We all had a fantastic trip away to the Lake District for a weekend, which was great. And they all had an induction together and everything to make sure everyone's kind of getting to know each other, because ultimately we want you in 5-10 years time to be the next kind of directors, senior directors within CBRE. And we've also got many more benefits, which the others will come on to. So the application process, you will need to complete an application form and a CV. We don't require a cover letter. The application form consists of 3 main questions that are about, I think it's a maximum of 250 words. It's kind of very general questions that we want to just kind of understand a bit more about you, your personality, kind of why you're looking into CBRE and the pathway that you're interested in. Then after that, as long as you meet the minimum requirements for each of the pathways, which can be found on the job descriptions, you'll then be invited to our job-focused testing, which is a little bit like a psychometric testing. It tests your cognitive and behavioural qualities. And so we'll be putting you through that, which will also help to kind of form your training and development plans once you start. And then after that, should you be successful through the screen listing and shortlisting, then we'll invite you along to our assessment centres, which will consist of an interview and a group activity as well. So the group activity is a really good way for us to judge kind of how you work in a team, your presentation skills, your kind of thinking on your feet and all of those types of things. And then our interview is obviously to kind of get to know you on a bit more of an individual personal basis. So I think that is everything from me. Does anyone have, actually, I'm not going to pause for questions just yet because the others might touch on other parts as well. But write any questions down that you do have and then pop those into the chat box. And I'll pass on to Natalia.
Hi everyone, I'm Natalia and I'm in the building consultancy in the project management division. I started in 2021, so I've just gone into my 2nd year, and I'm just sort of going to give you an overview of my experience and how I got into CBRE and what I did before. So I started off with doing a degree in history, so not really construction related at all. I didn't really consider a career in construction until COVID happened, and I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I always liked property and I liked historical buildings. So I then went on to do a building surveying master's. It was all remote. It was with London South Bank Uni, and that was during the height of COVID. So I never went in, but studied the whole thing remotely. And in that time, I managed to secure an internship at CBRE. And that made a big difference, I would say, to me eventually getting a job here. Not that you can't get a job here without an internship, But the benefit of it was I managed to make a lot of contacts and connections and get some advice on how I could maybe pursue a future career here. And in the end, they eventually contacted me to apply for a job as they had liked the work I had done for them previously. So my advice would be, if you're applying for the graduate scheme, if there's any way you can sort of make contact with people in the teams you're interested in before maybe even the interview stage, connect on LinkedIn, see what they do, put your name out there, that will actually benefit you. Just be extra keen. It's a huge company, so it's quite hard to stand out. And we have a lot of applicants. So if you can, make contact with any of us here on LinkedIn, see who we're connected with, do a bit of stalking, essentially, then you can maybe boost yourself up a bit because you can get your name noticed before interview stage. So projects I'm currently working on are a complete mix, which is what I love about my education here at CBRE so far. I'm doing new builds up to, I think some of them are up to £400 million. I'm doing smaller projects with historical buildings, which is my particular passion, and they're sort of about £2 million. But they're interesting to me because you get to work with, historical conservationists. You have to get into the legal side of things with conservation areas. I'm doing a project in the walkie-talkie building, so existing buildings that are quite incredible. Other projects I'm working on have a big sustainability focus. I think sustainability is becoming a huge aspect of what we do in every section of CBRE. So boosting your knowledge on that before interview stage would also be very good. Look up BREEAM, understand maybe some of the laws surrounding it. So, in my interview, I talked about the net zero carbon regulations, because this will really influence everything you are working on, whether it's an old building, a new building, or you're in a different division. Overall, I would say the culture at CBRE is incredible, and I'm really, really happy I ended up here. I've heard from other people who have been elsewhere and then moved over here, and they were from other top competitors to CBRE, that the company culture was completely different and not very good. It was a lot colder, or a lot more traditional, but CBRE is extremely flexible. We have a gym in Henrietta House. You're allowed to just go and exercise. You're allowed to go to the wellness rooms. We have incredible food here as well. There's vegan options. Your line manager will support you if you have a different sort of work style. If you want to maybe work a bit earlier in the day, or you have an appointment you need to go to, or you need to work remotely for whatever reason, that's encouraged and supported. And then one of my favorite parts of Henrietta House, because I'm based in London, is actually the library. It's really beautiful. It's upstairs, and it's just a quiet space where you can do any work. And I think that's probably all my advice. I think the other good part about CBRE is you can get involved in many different social groups. You could do a couple of socials each week if you wanted to. So there's a very exciting and fun atmosphere in the office every week. But for everyone who wants to apply, good luck. That's all I have to say, and thanks.
Thank you very much, Natalia. We will pass on to Jamie.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'll just give you a brief overview of my experience of the CBRE Next Gen scheme. As I said earlier, my name's Jamie. I'm a second year graduate building surveyor. I'm based in the Glasgow office, and I sit within the project management and building consultancy team. I'm currently on the 24-month structured training programme. But I also have kind of experience of the internship. My initial introduction to CBRE was through a summer placement, which then led me to being invited to apply for the graduate scheme, which I was successful on. Since starting in the Next Gen scheme, I found it to be very beneficial. It's allowed me to build my network, gain meaningful industry experience. Also, touch a bit on about the office culture in CBRE. I find it to be very open and diverse. Everyone's available to speak to, from your kind of line manager right up to senior management. Also, in the Next Gen Buddy scheme, you if you're successful, you'll be allocated a buddy. There's a Next Gen kind of person that's walked the path kind of before you. You'll be allocated an Next Gen Buddy, who's someone, a good sounding board for you to bounce off any ideas or queries that you may have. So you're never alone. There's always someone to speak to. I'm actually now a buddy. As I'm a second year, I'm actually now a buddy for a first year. And I found it beneficial to kind of pass on my experience and knowledge to the guys that are coming through. In terms of my day-to-day role, you kind of start off initially assisting senior surveyors, completing building surveys, defect analysis, all sorts of any problems that arise at the clients that you're representing. It's quite an organic role that leads to you kind of progressing to starting to take on your own instructions and as your responsibilities grow. My immediate plans for the future are to complete my APC assessment and gain chartered status, which with the support of the Next Gen team, I'm pretty confident I'll get there. In terms of my top tip for you guys to take away the day when you are looking to apply for your role, it would just be research. Show your passion. Look into CBRE's website. Take note of any recent big wins that the company's had, or we produce a lot of good research papers where you can get lots of good information there, and you may be able to cross-reference any big wins or articles that the company's produced. You may be able to cross-reference them in your interview, which will help you stand out. And that's about me, guys. I'd just like to say good luck to you all as well as you progress forward.
Thanks so much for that, Jamie. Cool. We have kind of whizzed through all of our side of things. So I just wanted to now kind of pass over to the Q&A chat to see if anyone has any questions. I think we've got quite a few coming through. So what I think would be great, Yashni, if you want to go ahead and ask us the questions and then we'll be able to answer them.
Yeah, of course. So the first question is, the benefits, the accreditations of relevant pathways, is CBRE paying for those?
Yeah, so all of the accreditations we fund, as well as if you're a non-cognate and you're coming in and you would need to do, so to kind of put that into perspective. So I'll take the commercial real estate pathway, for example. If you're coming in as a non-cognate, you would need to do a master's in real estate alongside your graduate scheme. And that's, again, all funded by CBRE.
Thank you. Okay, so what are CBRE's core values?
Oh, good question. So we have our RISE values that we all kind of live by, and that's kind of what's been set out. I don't know if you two want to kind of jump onto that at all, and this is a test to make sure that you all know them.
Well, the first two, I'll do the first two, are respect and integrity. And that's a big part in everything we do. We're really proud of how we communicate with everyone. There's a big focus on being, I guess, respectful, as it says, and also dignified in all the dealings we do. And there's sort of a known thing that the construction industry, despite how big CBRE is a very small industry. So it's important to be very professional in every dealing you do, because you never know who you might end up having to work with again. So that's sort of something that's quite stressed in everyday life here so far for me.
Jamie, do you want to take the other two, or shall I?
No. The second two values are so it's RISE values. I think Natalia's covered R and I. The S stands for service. which basically just the overview meaning of it is no one instruction is bigger than the company. We treat every size of instruction the same. Every one of our clients get the same level of service. E is for excellence, speaks for itself really. We always like to offer a best in class service, and we always like to be a market leader.
Perfect.
In terms of application process, how would you find the application questions, as it says to upload a cover letter on the commercial graduate program?
The cover letter should be optional, so you shouldn't have to submit anything. If you are having any difficulties with that, then just let me know, but it should be an optional. So some people still want to put it, which is fine. But you shouldn't have to do that in order to get through to the next. Then once you click through, it will then take you to the application questions.
As a non-cognate student, how can I make my application stand out and be relevant in the specific field I'm applying to?
Good question. So I normally say that we're not looking for, like I say, we're not looking for people with all the kind of relevant knowledge and all of those types of things. And the application questions are very kind of top level. They're not asking for any technicalities or anything. It's mainly just looking into your passion for property and for real estate, and kind of why you've chosen CBRE. I think what's kind of a top tip for the application forms, because we see so many applicants. To kind of put it into perspective, we got 2,000 last year for 85 graduate positions, and so we see a lot of kind of similar application forms. So I would say kind of make it stand out where possible, add in a bit of kind of character and personality where possible, obviously to a certain extent. But also I think it's what's really important for me is that you can apply to kind of, you can apply to multiple companies, but I think it's important to show kind of why CBRE and what's made you decide that CBRE is one of the companies that you want to work for, because ultimately also we want you to then be staying on with us and growing with us and developing with us. I think that's something that's really important to us.
Do you offer deferred entry on the commercial grad scheme?
So as a general rule of thumb, no, we don't do deferrals. Occasionally we have done in very extenuating circumstances, but as a general rule of thumb, no, we take in the graduates for the next year.
Do you have flexible working from home?
So again, at first we try, especially after COVID, I think we've all kind of realized that it's great working from home sometimes, but ultimately you get a really great kind of learning experience in the office. We found that with the cohort that started virtually, and Jamie can probably testify to this, it's really hard learning and working from home and doing everything virtually. So at first we encourage people to be in the office 5 days a week where possible. We can offer flexibility later down the line, but I think we find that with most of the people who start afresh with us, they want to be in all the time so that you're kind of picking up all of those kind of learning points that you wouldn't necessarily hear, because all of our offices are open plan. So you might be sitting next to an executive director who's working on like £100 million deal. And so you can actually start picking up things that you wouldn't hear and wouldn't get exposure to if you were working from home. But later down the line, we do offer flexibility in working from home in a hybrid working model.
Are the graduate programs only for the UK?
So these ones that we've gone over today, yes, they are based in the UK. We do have different offices across the UK, across the world, though, as I mentioned at the beginning. But each country kind of hires their own direct next generation programs. So you would need to look on their websites, different country websites, to look at the graduate opportunities in their countries.
So as an international student that's currently studying in the UK, can you apply for the graduate program?
Yes, you can. Anyone can apply. All that we ask is that you have right to work at the commencement of your graduate scheme.
Can you apply for more than one graduate program?
100%. Yes, you can. I sometimes encourage it, not all the time, because some people kind of know exactly what they're wanting to go into. But yes, we can do. It might just get to a stage where maybe kind of after second stage that we might then ask for a preference of which one that you're wanting to go for.
Is it worth applying for a placement or internship before applying to the graduate scheme?
I would say that's kind of totally down to each individual, I think, and feel free others to kind of jump in on this where kind of feel like they need it. But I think if you're maybe not 100% sure on what you're wanting to do, or not 100% sure, 100% sold on the company, then you might want to kind of go down that route and definitely understand if real estate is, because the 2-year scheme is obviously quite a big commitment. So it might be that you want to go down that route, which is fine, but it's not a required need. You don't have to do it.
And does the graduate scheme require the candidate to be nationally mobile?
So I'm guessing that means across the UK. Yeah. So there is sometimes travel required, but most of the time, I mean, Jamie, you'll probably be able to testify to this a bit better. Do you do a lot of traveling around Scotland?
Yeah, well, the way our service line is structured in particular, Hannah, you know yourself probably, it's regionalised. So we have London. If you're in London, you generally cover maybe London in the south. You move up to the Midlands where we have Manchester. I'm based in Glasgow, so Scotland, we have offices. Our offices are pretty spread out. I mean, even in Scotland, we have offices in Glasgow, Edinburgh and Aberdeen. So generally, you'll be in your kind of home city or surrounding area. But I mean, I've travelled up to just wherever the business needs. I've travelled up to Aberdeen to help the guys out. But also, it brings your own experience on as well, gives you opportunity to meet people in other offices. So it's totally business dependent. It's not required, but it's beneficial for you as well, and it's totally optional.
100%. And I would just kind of add on to that as well. So you might be kind of going out, like, for example, if you are based in London or Glasgow, or you might be going and doing like client visits or whatever in kind of your sort of immediate areas, but you won't be kind of needing to kind of go cross country all the time. What we do try and do with the graduates who are based regionally, because we've got offices in Southampton, Bristol, Birmingham, Oxford, Leeds, Manchester, Scotland, Glasgow, Aberdeen, Edinburgh. Is there any other?
We're in Northern Ireland as well. We're in Ireland, aren't we? We're in Dublin.
Yes,
We're in Dublin, yeah.
So we might occasionally then kind of bring you down to London into our kind of headquarters of the UK, so that then you can, and it might be for like a next generation event, but you won't be kind of regularly traveling across country.
What programs do you offer to second year students in terms of internships, and what percentage of them are offered graduate positions after third year?
So our internships vary year to year. So like I say, the internships open in January. So you can apply for those in January, and they kind of vary around the different business areas, but they'll be specific and mentioned on the job descriptions when they open.
Natalia's questions for you. So you mentioned that the Henrietta House has a gym and library. Is this building open 24 hours, and are these amenities common in CBRE offices? Also, they asked, when is your working day?
So yes, it's opened 24 hours. So people sometimes actually go there at weekends to study APC things. Also, the amenities, I believe, so wellness rooms, faith rooms, meditation rooms, that sort of thing. That was in Southwark Street in the other London office. I can't speak for the regional ones, but I know that the gym and probably the library is just exclusive to Henrietta House, but you can always come and visit those facilities, I believe. And then what was the other part of the question?
When is your working day?
My working day, so like Hannah touched on, graduates do need to be in more. It's encouraged at the beginning for learning reasons. So I am in the office at least 4 days a week. Last week I was 5. But my line manager is flexible when I need to be home for appointments or things like that. And then my actual hours, it can vary. So you're contracted to do either 9 till 5 or 9:30 till 5:30. Sometimes I get in for 8:30, but leave at 5, because I like to get set up with some things. But I don't really stay much later than that.
How long are the rotation periods in the commercial graduate program?
So all of our as a general kind of rule of thumb, our rotations are 1 year long. Some of our service lines can offer more and kind of shorter ones. So where you're in kind of the smaller teams, you might do 3 or 4. But as a general kind of standard across all of our graduate schemes, it's 2 1-year rotations. We have tried it with more and shorter ones before, but especially because of the breadth of the projects that you'd be working on, we've found you'd be kind of starting on something, only starting to kind of get underway with it, and then you'd be moving on to a different team, and so you can't ever really kind of get stuck in with anything. So we found that the 1-year rotations work really, really well, and it means you get enough kind of exposure and experience for your APC.
Which real estate career has the highest ceiling in terms of career progression and growth?
Ooh, good question. I mean, feel free to kind of jump in, but I would say that I don't think any particular one has kind of a limit. I think it's very much what you make of it. And I think that's probably when I speak to kind of the graduates who have started, I think it's their kind of top tip is say yes to kind of, or like put yourself forward for as much as you can. Because I think you don't want to kind of limit yourself at all. And I think it's, you don't have to, even if you've kind of maybe reached kind of the top of your kind of grade or your area, you don't have to stop there. You can kind of get involved in different things, and it might be that you want to kind of start doing more with the different networks or doing more with the wider industry. And so it never stops. I would say you can kind of grow and grow and grow. I don't think there is kind of a proverbial ceiling at all. I don't know if anyone else wants to comment on that at all.
Yeah, I would just comment on that, Hannah, saying it's totally down to the individual. There is no ceiling. I think a great example would be kind of Chief Exec, Kieran Bird, who regularly contributes to the next gen calls. He's told his story umpteen times, started at the bottom and he's risen to kind of the very top. So I would put him up as your perfect example. There is really no ceiling, totally down to your commitment, your effort and your own goals.
Yeah,
100%.
Are people that have done a master's eligible for the graduate route?
Yeah, absolutely. That then means, so if you've done like a master's in real estate, for example, it just means that you wouldn't then need to do the master's when you're doing the graduate scheme. So 100% master's students are of course welcome. Yeah.
Does CBRE offer sponsorship for people who require visa to work in the UK?
So we just ask that people have right to work at the commencement of the graduate scheme.
What university is the real estate master's degree what university is the real estate master's degree associated with in terms of CBRE?
Or when you're studying, when you're at CBRE. Okay, so that will be through UCEM, so the University College of Estate Management, based in Reading, but it's virtually done.
What are the typical challenges someone in our position would face?
Is that from a student position?
I think student, graduate, someone applying for the role.
It's probably best answered by
Yeah, I'll take that one if you want.
Yeah.
I think, well, from my own personal experience, your biggest challenge is kind of juggling your day-to-day role with your APC. I think as Hannah touched on, it's quite a big commitment. It's a 2-year commitment, and it requires quite a lot of kind of dedication, time management. I would say that's the biggest kind of challenge that I have faced.
Can I add to that as well? I think if from a different angle, the biggest challenge to get maybe to interview stage and beyond that you might face is, I was told before I joined that it's not just about your qualifications. It's not about, who you know or anything like that. It's really about how you present yourself. So your personality, would you be someone they want to work with? So you have to consider that in, I would say, the interview stage. I recently heard about the last cohort, and apparently there was someone who the other graduates who got in just thought was amazing. They shone with their knowledge and everything. But the problem with that person is they would put others down to maybe make themselves look a bit better in interview stage. And they did it subtly. I don't even know if the other graduates knew, but the people interviewing them noticed. And that made them not get a job, because despite their knowledge, despite them looking quite dominant in maybe team working situations, it wasn't someone they would want to work with. So I think bear that in mind in interview stage. So yeah, I think that's a challenge, making sure your personality is in line with our values, essentially.
Can someone that's studied a RICS accredited degree in real estate meet the requirements to apply for the building surveying graduate scheme?
No, they would need to have studied a building surveying degree.
I'm not sure if you've answered this before. Does CBRE offer a sponsored visa to international applicants?
So again, we would just need right to work at the commencement of your graduate scheme.
What would you say for the salary expectations question? Can you just say competitive?
So with regards to the salary, yeah, we are a national living wage employer, so we pay in line with or above the national living wage, and yeah, it's competitively placed across the industry.
Natalia, this is also for you. Having studied building surveying as a master's degree, what made you shift to work as a graduate project manager?
I think what made me shift was the work experience. I am someone who wanted to be involved in the project delivery aspect of things. So I would be there start to finish. I would be there in every stage. With building surveying, you can do that on a smaller scale, but you would never be running really large scale projects. You would be more doing the surveys and maybe contract administration, which are things I do in my role. But I wanted to essentially work on bigger projects. So that is why I made the move. However, I know that in the project management team, they love building surveyors. That's sort of, most project managers have that background. So not that you can't get into it if you don't, but it's not a bad thing to have made the change, essentially.
Other than networking with interviewers before interviews, is there any other application and interview tips?
I would probably recommend just making sure you're researching exactly what you're going into, researching the company, and just kind of making sure that you're sharing your knowledge in kind of what you're passionate about. But also I always kind of recommend that you prepare, if you know that you might have kind of certain objections or kind of things that might come up. So for example, if you've studied like English and you've decided to go into real estate, one of the questions from an interviewer might be, what's your decision, what's made your decision from going from English to real estate? So I would just say preparing yourself for any objections that might arise, and also having questions ready for the end of the interview as well, because we always like to have questions that you're actually interested in, because it shows that you're more interested and engaged with the company.
Yeah, I could actually add to that. One maybe tip someone told me, which is helpful, is if in an interview you don't know the answer, it's not good to say nothing. Just say, I don't know, but I know where I could find this answer. And, you know, if it was building surveying, you could be like, I could go to the director and he could mentor me, support me, something like that. Because then that shows you're proactive, which is something they're looking for. If you just say, I don't know, and you don't have a solution for how to find it, then that would maybe be off-putting.
If you're applying to 2 graduate schemes, how would you do this on the website?
You should just be able to apply individually for each one.
What made you guys choose CBRE over other competitors?
Good question. I'll let you two take that.
Do you want to go first, Jamie?
Yeah, for me, it was just I wanted to work for the best company alongside the best people, and yep, CBRE was the obvious choice. Yeah, that's about all I can say. If you want to be the best and work with the best, CBRE's it's the place to be.
Yeah, I think mine was similar. I think when I was doing my building surveying degree, I did something maybe a bit childish, and I just wrote in Google, what's the #1 company in the world for, you know, what I did, and it came up with CBRE. So I was like, that's the one. That's what I'm going for. And I didn't really look at anything else. I mean, I did research the other ones, and I was considering applying for their schemes. But what put me off was the company culture at the end of the day. I think CBRE is a lot more progressive, flexible, fun. Everyone says that I've worked with who have worked in other places that it feels more like a family. It feels more social. Work doesn't feel as, it is obviously the best in the industry, so we are competitive, but it doesn't feel that way, which is a nice thing. So that's why I chose it in the end.
I would just like to add to that as well. I think ultimately the main competitors in our area are our main competitors for a reason. Every company who is kind of one of our main competitors are fantastic real estate companies. And so I think and this is what I say to kind of people often, is don't feel that you, like, I would go and research them and go and look at them up and figure it out, because ultimately, although we might be saying that we're the best and that we love CBRE, you're never going to be somewhere that's perfect for everyone. So make sure you kind of look into the others, see what you feel would actually be the best company for you. And hopefully you will realize and recognize that it is CBRE. But I think it's really important because we want you to be here for as long as possible, and so it's really important that you're somewhere that you love and that you feel very passionate about. And so I would say really do your research on the companies in the market to make sure that you are picking the best one that's suited for yourself.
Yeah. Is an APC involved in all pathways?
No is the easy question. No, so like for our environmental, social and governance pathway, you don't need to do the APC. So the APC is only included in the pathways that require you to become a chartered surveyor.
What is the typical dress code for a female building surveyor?
Good question. I don't think there is a typical dress code. Our kind of standard dress code across the office is smart casual, but we also kind of say to dress for your day. I think if you're going and meeting a client, then you probably want to dress a bit smarter. But if you know you're kind of going to be based in the office all day, then you can kind of dress a bit more casual. Obviously, we are a professional office, but we're not super corporate. We're not going to be kind of I think gone are the day of suits and ties and kind of pencil skirts for females. I think it's instead you dress what you feel comfortable in, and CBRE kind of encourages you to feel that you dress comfortably and professionally, but kind of sticking with that smart casual.
Could I also add to that, actually?
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't buy a pair of heels because you won't wear them. Like, I went and bought some and I've never worn them. They're really ugly as well because I thought that was more professional, but you know, they've just sat in my cupboard. So you don't need to go and buy heels. Everyone wears flats. And then the other tip would be, if you're going on a building site, probably don't wear a dress, not because for any dodgy reason, but if you're climbing ladders, doing that sort of thing, I've learned embarrassingly that, you shouldn't do that. So that was the only thing I would say. That's the time to wear trousers, I would say.
The slide showed that CBRE apprenticeships are good for school, college, and uni students. Can I do an apprenticeship during my placement year?
So the apprenticeship is 4 years long. So no, you would need to be on the apprenticeship scheme.
Would you say CBRE is a very equally diverse company in terms of staffing?
Good question. So I think there's kind of historically with the real estate industry, kind of everyone will be happy to admit that initially, kind of historically, it's a very kind of white male dominated industry. But I would say that, and we've still got a kind of a long way to go on making sure that we're kind of completely matching that and kind of fixing that. But I would say that CBRE is doing a fantastic job on kind of diversifying the workforce. And for the past, I think it's 3 or 4 years, we've had a 50-50 gender split on all of our graduate and apprenticeship schemes. And this year, for our apprenticeship scheme, I think it was 35% of our or 40% of our successful applicants were from an ethnic minority background. And so we're definitely kind of trying to make movement in that area and trying to improve that, because I think ultimately diversity kind of improves business. But we've still got a way to go. I think it's a never ending thing but it's very kind of close to our heart, and it's something that we're trying to kind of really improve, I would say. I'm just going to quickly flag that we've probably only got time for maybe one more question.
Yeah. They're all coming in now. This is a really good one. How do you find being in part of such a big organization, and do you feel that you're actually making a difference?
So again, personally, like I said at the beginning, I've worked in companies that are smaller than this before, and I've felt like more of just a number than I have done here. I think it's how much you put yourself out there and kind of the amount of effort that you're willing to put in, but also with those service lines, you do get to know people kind of really well. I don't know if either of you want to touch on that at all as well.
I would say that I had that fear as well, but I've never felt it. I've felt very valued and important in my role, probably because they do give a lot of responsibility to graduates. So you would know that if you were to disappear, the projects wouldn't go around anymore. There would be an impact. And I think also in each individual team, so I'm in project management, you become close with that team. And it does feel like a small business within a big business, but then all the other teams mix up. I know building surveyors, etc. So yeah, you don't feel like a insignificant cog in the machine.
I think that's all the questions answered. Most of them.
I just want to say thank you so much for everyone for joining. I know that there's quite a lot of questions that we haven't been able to get to. Feel free to reach out to any of us on LinkedIn. You're more than welcome to kind of, we'll be able to kind of help and answer any questions that you might have. Also, after this session, you'll receive an email that's got a link to our talent community. So if you want to sign up to there to register your interest to our next generation talent community at CBRE, you can. It's probably a great thing for people who are wanting to do the apprenticeship, internship, or in their first or second year at uni. There you can kind of keep up to date with everything that's going on at CBRE. We'll let you know when all of our different applications open and all of those types of things as well. So I would definitely recommend signing up to that. But yeah, I just want to say a huge thank you for joining in, and a huge thank you to the other kind of speakers as well. Thanks all. And I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Thanks
Bye.
everyone.